Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Strike Zone, 5th edition, probably the last edition for this 21-22 bowling season. Got a lot to cover today as we're nearing districts and state. We'll get right into it. Number one, if you have not done so, look over the records Google Docs links in the Strike Zone for this week. Make sure and submit those. We're trying to accumulate all the records from the last 2 years all in one place. If you haven't seen it already, your district assignments and locations are posted. Got links in the Strike Zone this week. Also review the format. Also a link to the state championship schedule. Couple of new things. Number one, wild card results. We're near the end of the year. Today is Wednesday. I will lock the wild card points after the results through Friday and Saturday of this weekend. You'll see an email coming out to me shortly from two ADs and you, the head coach. Make sure you're reviewing and double-checking the results of all of your regular season matches, tournaments, and duels, because we want to make sure we've got an accurate snapshot of those wildcard points as we work towards a wildcard qualifier as a team next week. So make sure you're doing that. Check over that schedule. Also, make sure you're reviewing the language on page 11 in the manual regarding uniforms. I'd hate for somebody to show up in a postseason event out of uniform. Make sure you're checking those things, making sure your kids are following the guidelines set in the manual for uniforms. One of the hot topics the last 2 years in bowling, because it's new to the high school world and under NSA governorship, is the topic of outside participation. Specifically today, I want to talk about, can a bowler who bowls on the high school team participate in a club bowling league during the high school season as a pacer bowler? In short, the answer is no. The USBC is very clear in specifying that a pacer bowler is a bowler who fills in to balance the rotation of teams. So right then and there, the USBC looks at a pacer bowler as somebody that's a part of a team. I get it, they're not recording a score. Their name is not on a results page, but they still are participating in the skill of the sport, bowling in this case, during the high school season, even if they're a pacer. So we have the USBC rule in that realm. Then we also have NSA Bylaw 351 that does not allow outside participation in the said sport during a high school season. So pacer bowlers are not permitted to be a part of the club bowling league during the high school season. A couple reminders on this topic. Number one, high school bowlers should not compete in outside club tournaments, leagues, or other things during the high school bowling season. Secondly, this applies to varsity and or JV bowlers. So the level bowler that you have at your high school team, it doesn't matter. They still cannot outside participate. Third, this would include being a pacer. I just explained why. Next, we do have an NSA outside participation waiver form that exists. There are a couple of exceptions. One example I'll throw out there is if you're outside participating for Olympic development. But this waiver has to be submitted and approved before any of this outside participation takes place. Okay, you can't come to the NSA after the fact. ADs have a link to this. Actually, everybody has a link to it. It's on the public side of the webpage under schools, administrative forms. It's also linked in this document. You'll use an AD or utilize your AD to submit this waiver. Most of the time, if the exception is not granted, again, I use the Olympic development exception, if there's not an exception granted, penalties often would include that athlete sitting out a contest or two, depending on how many days they outside participate. It could also include forfeits of team wins. So you really got to continue to educate your kids on this topic, continue to educate your families. I'm working on educating our proprietors because they can also help if they see something that doesn't seem right when they host these leagues that sometimes overlap with the high school season. But I just want to be clear on that. And last but not least, if you ever have questions about it, go to your AD and ask him or her first. Your AD is well-versed in this area. But then secondly, come to us and ask me or Jay Bell, our executive director. We're glad to help. Moving along, I've got a couple of thoughts in here if weather impacts your contest here in the last few days of the season. Review those. I think the rest of the stuff, honestly, in this Strike Zone is stuff that I've had in the past, dealing with ghost teams, tournament formats, which we're about to the end of tournaments. So anyway, those are my topics for today. Thanks for a great season. It's been really good. Best of luck during the postseason. And again, you know where to reach me with questions. Take care.